Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pit Talk, pulling pits and opinions with your host, Gunny G, where service members help service members, period. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcast and on most social media platforms. Let us know how we're doing. Any criticism is good criticism. We got a special guest. I'll let him introduce himself. A retired Command Sergeant Major, Bart Womack. Yes, sir. First, I would like to say thank you for your service. Thank you for your time to the service, honorable service to this country. It's a great day to be an American this every day. But brief professional background, so the listeners get to know you a little bit better. Where you're from, duty station, when you enlisted, when you retired, things like that.
Wow. Okay, let me try to remember all that. Born and raised native of Columbus, Ohio. So go Bucks. Joined the military a long time ago before you even thought of, way back in 1977.
Wow.
Told you.
Well, you look great.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I drink the water. You got to drink the water, man. Let's see, last duty station was 101st Airborne Division, Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Last duty assignment was kind of dual assignments. I was the commandant of the NSO Academy as well as the division sergeant major at 101st Airborne Division. So, I guess you'd say story, 29.5-year career. Loved just about every minute of it. I'm sure there was a couple of minutes that weren't so great, but yeah, all in all, I would say just a great endeavor. You realize once you are in the middle of it or certain parts of it that what you are accomplishing, even though you raise your hand in the beginning when you're young, 18, to really know that it's for our country. I won't say that I knew that in the very beginning, but I definitely knew it in the first quarter of it for sure.
Wow. Okay. So you retired at what year?
2006.
2006. Okay, so you're well transitioned already, huh, Sergeant Major?
Yeah, this June will be 19 years.
And you're counting. It's wild. Usually you count the days before your EAS, but you're counting since you're retired. That's crazy.
Well, I just do the math. Okay, 2006 is 2025. It's easy. I have to do one first. I know the 2026 and what year is this or whatever, and June's coming up, so we're getting there.
Marines don't do math out loud, Sergeant Major. Shoot, that's crazy. Well, again. Thank you for your service. Congratulations. It's a big achievement. 29 years. Wow. I'll tell you what. Well, before we get to the meat and potatoes, the good stuff, can you share your favorite duty station?
Oh, I get that question a lot, and I think I answer it the same every time. I will tell you that favorite duty was at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier of Washington, D.C.
Oh, okay.
And
With that, okay, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead.
And favorite, I guess, city and state to have served in was in Hawaii, so Honolulu, in the 25th ID. I won't say so much for the overall unit, bad mouthing the 25th ID. We're in field a lot, doing our thing like we were supposed to. I spent the first 2 years, 13 months, I didn't sleep in my own bed. So that's hard to make that one a favorite, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
And then, best job is command sergeant major, hands down at every level.
Wow. Okay. Well, you took all the lightning and thunder away from me, so that's great. Appreciate that. Well, you had to see something. You've had to deploy somewhere. Can you let the listeners know where you deployed to, how many times you deployed in your 20 career?
I usually don't get that one. So I try to put them in chronological order here. I want to say first was to Haiti in 1995. The president
Cool.
had been ousted. It was a military coup that took him out of power, and the military was running it. So we were sent in there to restore him to power. The next one was Kosovo in 2000 and 2001. Then Iraq in 2003, 2004. I feel like there's another one missing someplace. Yeah. So those three. I would tell you one thing. It wasn't a deployment, so it was actually an assignment. I'll probably jump ahead of anything you may have written down there. But I mention this because it's the things that we deployed to do to protect our country and the enemies of our country and the enemies of those countries that we partner with. I was stationed in Korea, and during that time, we had a firefight with the KPA. So for your audience, PA is the Korean People's Army, so North Korea. And I mentioned this because most people had never heard of this at all.
Right.
It happened in 1984. There was, and how it happened, there was a Chinese guy who had visited the North Korean side, and there's tours that happen up there in the JSA Joint Security Area. And we were on our mission, like we do up there in what we call the North when you're working in the JSA. And he defected, but he had planned to defect. He had planned this for 2 years. He was going to go to North Korea and defect. So the way he did it, he was he had another guy with him. I assume it was his buddy, right? And he was taking a picture with the KPA guard. So his back was to the south side. And as that picture was being taken, he just turned around, turned around and just started running south. Just followed the road and just kept running. The guard chased after him. Other guards come over. Shots were being fired. So we did our normal reaction drill, which wasn't a drill this particular time. It was real. And
Yeah.
there was this huge firefight going back and forth for about, when you're in these things, you don't really think about the time. So it wasn't long, when there's constant fire going back and forth, how long do you
Yeah.
really need it to be? So maybe 20 minutes or so. And we kind of ended that by shooting M203 rounds over where they had come across. So they had all come across to our side. We weren't on their side. And my team leader and
Wow.
myself went up to the upstairs part of our building, knocked out a window, and figured we get a vantage point of shooting 203 rounds over to an area that we couldn't see. So they were kind of on the high ground, not very high, but kind of like this, further off, 200 yards or so. But they were up here, we were down here. So we didn't really have effective fields of fire to shoot them because of
Yeah.
the land was. Like there was nothing going to make that round go up from where we are, and there was nothing going to make their rounds come down. So that tool launching those rockets over there, those grenades over there, kind of neutralized a lot of things. So the first round was fired and hit a tree, even though I told the team, like, okay, one thing you can't do is hit the tree because our soldiers were right below where the tree was, right? And there's
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
pillars. No, there's no foliage on the trees or anything like that. And probably thankfully there wasn't, because that might have caught and deflected the round more so than it did. So it was able to kind of go through some twigs in the tree and keep going, although it didn't hit the target. So you hear the explosion. I slapped him on the side of his helmet. I said, the one thing I said not to do is what you did.
This hit.
Do it again. Don't hit the tree. So he
That's
shoots
funny.
again, and then you hear yelling, right? So now you know that you've hit the target, which is the enemy. Keep that same launch angle and everything, and fire that again. And then that kind of neutralized some things. In the end, 5 of them were killed and 3 were wounded. We suffered 2 casualties. So in our platoon up there, the platoon is broken down between half GIs, half Katusa soldiers. And Katusa is Korean augmented to the United States Army. So it's really kind of the elite or privileged kids who get an opportunity to serve with the United States Army versus being a Republic of Korea soldier. So it would get a break not serving in Republic of Korea as a soldier, because that army was tougher on them, if you will. And for your audience, every Korean-born male must serve in the military beginning at age 21. I don't know if it starts at age 20. I think it starts at age 21. Well, maybe not start at age 21, but they have to do it.
Yeah. 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 That's
We made
crazy.
So I watch. I'm not a pro. I watch pro golf, right? And those Koreans that are golfers and that were born in Korea, they have to take a break from the pro tour for 2 years to go serve in their military. So they don't care who you.
Yeah. I mean, agree to disagree. I don't know. It sounds like a good thing, maybe not a bad thing. I don't know.
You're
I'm
not.
not sure. I don't get paid enough to know the history or what the after actions or any of that, but that sounds like a good deal to me. Uh,
So bottom line, they didn't come out and fight. So our platoon probably had a 35-person strength, and so you think about half of that strength, 17ish or whatever, fighting all the KPA. And even though those numbers were wounded, killed and wounded, that were fighting for them, they still had many more that were in their headquarters building called the GOC. So if you ever want to see the GOC, there's a James Bond movie with Pierce Bronson where it starts out in the beginning where there's an exchange. Pierce Bronson is like a captive of North Korea, and they're exchanging someone to go back to North Korea. But that happens, and they show the big old building there called the GOC. Yeah. So yeah, that was a tough day. We had one soldier that was he got shot in the neck, but had one of those kind of meaty necks, so it went straight through. And then the Korean soldier that was with him died. He got shot. He had moved to the high ground. Remember I told you about the elevation on their
yeah.
side? where he had moved to the high ground behind, behind us. And there was a helipad, but on his way to that high ground, it's when he got shot. So their rounds were like never going to affect us, like I told you before, but because he was on the same level of high ground
Yeah.
behind. Yeah.
That's crazy, something. I don't know.
Yeah.
What you said, 1984 that happened?
1994. Like most people don't know about it. There was like a very, very thin article in the New York Times that said that it happened and then it just went away.
Well, I'm just saying because 1984, I wasn't even born yet, so I wouldn't even know that story. I wouldn't even know to look at it because well, first it's not Marine Corps related,
Yeah.
but
It
it's
you would
crazy.
have to look up conflicts between you would have to look up conflicts between South Korea and North Korea post Korean War. That'd be the
Yeah,
only way you'd be able to find it.
that's crazy. Let me ask you, what's the best rank in the Army?
We went over that. It goes along. It's alignment with the best job, Command Sergeant Major.
Oh, okay. I should keep you on your toes. Keep you on your toes. Okay, so
Yeah.
well, for me, I mean, I'm a E7 gunnery sergeant Marine Corps. So
Right.
far in the enlisted ranks, the sergeant and the gunnery sergeant are probably the best two ranks that I've experienced so far thus far. I
Yeah.
mean, hopefully, I get to put on the diamond and then sergeant major eventually, but we'll see. We'll see. Right now, those are two favorite ones.
I don't disagree with you. At that time it was, but it had nothing to do with that. That's where I was, or that's where you are. The difference is not more rank, but I would say more influence. And you get to control a lot of things, and you get to oust this term that you might hear when you go ask, like, why we're doing this, and someone says this dreaded thing. You need to punch them in the face every time you hear someone say this. Is That's the way we've always done it. And every time you hear that, it's time for a change. And I'm not
Mm,
advocating for change. I'm telling you that answer does not substantiate why we're doing what we're doing. And you know
that's good.
it. You've heard it
That's good.
before. And I don't care if the higher rank is saying, well, that's what we've always done. So that's what BS. There's a reason why. And
Yeah,
you are old, and your soldiers are old. I'm sorry, your Marines are old. An explanation why. Because when
yeah,
you provide
that's
the
good.
why, now you have buy-in. They don't have to
Yeah,
agree. They don't have to agree. If you provide the why, then you get buy-in. And you learn those things as you move up. You learn to explain the why. And then you're controlling why certain things are happening. And you get to mitigate because it's always done that way. Because you've been in all those people's shoes. So I think what we shouldn't do and what we should learn from being mature in our rank and service is if it sucked when you were the E5, when you were the Lance Corporal, when you were those grades under where you are, then why continue to make it suck? Just because that's the way it was when I did it? I would
yeah,
like to think their leadership is much, much smarter than those who led them at that rank when they were lower rank.
yeah.
And if we aren't exercising our intellect in our leadership positions, then we're wrong. That branch of service, that platoon, that squad, that unit is not going to excel under that leadership model. It just isn't.
That's good. That's good. That's good. I mean, that's good leadership. That's good gouge right there. So, I mean, I'll tell you what, I've heard that plenty of times in my short 15 years. I'm sure you've heard it. I'm sure you've heard it going up through the ranks in the Army. So, thank you for that. But we got to ask. I mean, it's been 19 years since your transition from uniform to civilian. If you could remember, go ahead and share to the listeners. How was it for you transitioning? 29 years, you're thoroughly indoctrinated soldier. There's nothing else you know. This is it. Like, how was it for you and your family, if you had a family at the time?
Yeah, I didn't have a family. I was divorced. I had sons, but they lived with their mother, and you work that out once you get out. I would say that yes, you are indoctrinated in what you're doing. You know it's going to be some day that you're going to get out and you're figuring out what to do. And I would say in 2006 in transitioning out, or even preparation for that, a year or two prior, there was not the emphasis and support and services then like there are now. Even if we went 10 years ago, they're not even the same. They were more advanced 10 years ago. They're more advanced 15 years ago than they were, when I got out. I think all that was required was you had to go to this thing. It was more about, benefits and those types of things, further insurance and all that type of stuff than there was getting a job. Much, much more. The only thing that was aligned with the getting a job was a resume writing class. That was it. So we've grown in that area, and it definitely needed it. But in terms of preparation, I knew what I was going to do before I got out. I started training on what I wanted to do before I got out. And what I ended up doing was go to Hollywood to be an actor and military technical advisor. So getting out in 2006, I started acting classes in nearby Nashville in 2002. Again, my date right now is 2006. Now, those classes were interrupted by this thing called the Iraq War. So as soon as I resumed those classes, although I didn't know what my date was, I didn't know when I was going to get out. I just knew what I wanted to do. So I started planning that. So if there's anything today that aligns with then, it would be preparation.
Mm,
Like
that's
we
good.
always have to prepare. And if you think about it, like what do we do in a service that we don't prepare for? I mean, it might be a couple of impromptu things where you're like, it's a test or whatever. But aside from that, the things that we're really trying to succeed at, we prepare for it in depth. You know this in depth,
That's good. Here we
over
go.
and over and over and over and over. We just did that over and over and over and over.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're going on a range to shoot and you're practicing for, a defense, or you're practicing for, some offensive maneuver, like you would do it two or three times dry fire. And then you're going to do it two or three times with blanks. And then you're going to do it two or three times with live fire. Or you may
Oh,
do
that's
it one
true.
time with live fire because of ammo availability, right? But you did it many times dry fire and did many, many more times blank fire, just for that one live fire.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Anyone who was in charge of planning the training, anyone who has gone through the training knows this, and it's no different. I would like to think with the right leadership that everything that you're learning in the military should prepare you for the outside if you use this same methodology and model. And no one says you can't take it with you. It's just people transition, they figure, well, it's completely different. Like you said, I was ingrained in military. So ingrained that I knew how to apply it everywhere.
Yeah, yeah,
And that was
yeah.
my thought. That truly, that was my thought. Now, if you'd have asked the guy who had just turned 18 years old and joined the army anything about that, he wouldn't know anything about that. He would have been definitely afraid of, the Hollywood thing, right?
Wow.
Just in no way. Like I'm too shy. I'm an introvert. There's no way I'm putting myself out there like that. I didn't have the tools. But once I had the tools, it was like, I'm unstoppable. I can do I've learned enough here and I've taught people other things here in this military that I can do anything. Okay, I'm not gonna train to go be a brain surgeon, but I think you get my point.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
how to do that. I just need to train myself in it. Let me learn the in and outs, and then I'm gonna go do it.
yeah. That's actually a good. But
That's my
you
thought.
know what? I never put it that way. We do, we do. We plan, we plan, we plan, and then we execute. Right? Even if we only execute once in live fire, or real op tempo, but we dress rehearsals, all that. I never thought about that. That's good gal star measure. That's a good point of view for those listening, transitioning out. You prepare for everything else you do in the service. Why not prepare for this? That's crazy. That's crazy. That's good gouge. I never thought about that way.
Yeah,
That's a
and
good set.
thank you. And what the difference is, and probably the reason you need to put more into that planning and preparation is that you don't have the support anymore.
Mm,
You don't
yeah,
have
there you go.
all those assets, none of that support to include people, to include encouragement and motivation. You have to do that for yourself. But I don't care if you spent 2 years, 3 years, or 35 years in, you've learned enough, or should have learned enough to be able to motivate yourself. Then if you can't, not only is that transition and that next job that you want to get going to be very difficult, but anything in life is.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. So you transitioned in 2006.
Yeah.
2006, I was graduating high school.
Yeah,
Wow.
I actually had a whole bunch of terminal leave. So I was by the time I got to Hollywood, it was late October 2005.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. Okay. So you transitioned, you knew what you were doing, you went in straight into Hollywood. How was that for you? Was that fun?
It was. I got partnered up with with the person right away. General, now a friend of mine, he knew someone who worked out there. I told the general, of course, what I was going to do. So I know someone who worked out there. So I partnered up with that person. I think late August or September, and He said, when you get here, I'll bring you to set. Brought me on set of this television show. It was a brand new show called the E-Ring. So the E-Ring, for your audience and those who don't know, is the special operations part of the Pentagon. So that it's an octagon shape. Each one is a ring, is what it's called. So the E-Ring is the operations part of the Pentagon. And so he had worked in there, and he created this television show around that. So it was called the E-Ring. It had Benjamin Bratt as a character, Anjanou Ellis. Anjanou Ellis is she plays Will Smith's wife in King Richard, just for familiarity.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty good show, and it ended up being taken off the air. So it goes down. Unfortunately, it's Jerry Bruckheimer's TV failure. That's a strong word. It's
That's
hard to say failure in Jerry Bruckheimer.
yeah.
So Jerry, if you're listening, he knows this. I still want to work with you.
Yeah.
Hollywood did that. Bart's not saying that. Said it goes down as that. I didn't do it. And the reason why is because it was doing very well. The ratings were doing very well. And it was on NBC. The rest of the stuff was on CBS. This was the only one that was on NBC at the time. And the NBC was hosting the Winter Olympics. So the show had to pause while NBC did their Olympics, and the audience that they had at a 9 point whatever, viewing rating, they couldn't find the audience again after the Olympics.
No, that sucks.
That's what happened, yeah.
God darn Olympics.
But I was born on that show, early on. I did background stuff on there. And for Hollywood folks that know, the thing is to get into the union. But I got to Hollywood the next week I was on this show. I worked 4 days of that week. It was set up to where we were getting SAG vouchers. So if you get 3 SAG vouchers, then you are SAG eligible. You can join SAG. So I was eligible to join the union after 1 week in Hollywood. That's how God blessed me. Just like I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was.
I
I
don't
didn't
even
know
know what
what
it is.
SAG voucher. I remember sitting in like the place we were eating on set there, and I heard these other people talking about, I just need 1 more voucher or 2 more vouchers or whatever. I didn't really understand what it meant. I think by the end of the week, someone had told me about these are SAG vouchers. So now you have your 3, you can join the union or whatever. Although I still didn't know what it was, but I'm hearing this other group of people talking about it. Saying 1 more. I've been out here for 5 years. It's 1 more. I'm gonna be great. I'm gonna be golden. And I'm thinking I've been here for 5 days, and I worked on this show for 4 days, and I'm already eligible. I was like, whoa. So I
I
kept
mean,
my mouth shut about that. And when people think
yeah.
I didn't know, I didn't know what it was. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, so just blessed in that manner. And I didn't join right away because I hadn't done nothing. I hadn't done anything. But it was in action scenes right away. I remember pulling this guy. It was a stunt guy, which probably meant another stunt guy should have been dragging him. But there's this scene where he catches on fire and then pull it out of the fire. So he had like a flame retardant suit on or whatever, and they kind of put that out or whatever. But then I had to drag this dude. He's like 240, he's like 6'3", 240. And I remember having to kind of get underneath his armpits or whatever, and I'm like,
Hell yeah.
oh my gosh. That was like one of the first things I was in. Then we had to do it
Bloody
twice.
drag.
Holy cow. What was wrong with the camera? Why didn't you get it the first time? Welcome to Hollywood, right? Everything didn't
Yeah.
work on the first take.
That's crazy. Sorry, man. I'll tell you what. What's I want to backtrack just a little bit before we get into the good stuff and your
Okay.
book and things like that. But I got to ask, 2006 transition. What do you miss from the uniform?
People. Having that common goal of, all the roads rowing the same way for the same thing. That's really it. I wouldn't say it's still the same today. I'm in touch with the people, so I'm good enough. I would go visit friends that were still in, and they were sergeant majors or lieutenant colonels, whatever rank they were, and I'd give them like 5 minutes to talk about Army. They want to know what I'm doing. I want to know what they're doing. But I knew in 5 minutes of time, I could learn what they're doing. I could get an update on where the Army was, and that's all I needed. That's all I wanted. You got 5 minutes. Anything beyond that, I don't care. I'm not doing this anymore. I don't affect it anymore. You can ask me questions or whatever, but I don't need any more download. I'm good.
Okay, got your little itch. Come back, get a little
Yeah,
fix in, come back
that's
in.
it. That's it.
That's
I'm
it.
good.
That's good. The people, yeah, it's true.
It was always
Everybody's,
the people. Yeah.
yeah, everybody says the same thing, Sergeant Major. People. You
Yeah.
know, all the other BS is just kind of noise, but they miss the people, the camaraderie, this mission set that we're all, going towards. That's good. That's crazy. Why is it that when we transition, well, it's not even transition, but why is it that it's not the same in the in civilian sector? Why is that? Your opinion, your opinion.
Yeah, yeah, that's all it can be. I would say it's the makeup of that organization, of that employer, whatever it is, and the leadership. You got to think about their leadership. In our leadership, now you're the gunny and you're in charge of those Marines, but you've done all those jobs that those Marines have done. That's not the same out here. That's not the same in corporate America. You got that job because, different reasons. Some because they like you. Some of you may be qualified for certain things, but have you done all those jobs to be able to leverage that leadership down to the lowest level, or you just barking orders? Yeah, so it's different. The culture is different. Do you know how to create a culture? Did you grow up in a culture, or you just came from someplace else to do something else? So it's different. How you get
Wow.
to those top leadership positions, or even some of those leadership positions, is completely different. And so, how can you shape what things are supposed to be like to build this one goal camaraderie? If you never worked one goal camaraderie, like you don't know how to do that. Really,
Yeah, that's good.
they are the biggest culprits of that's the way we've always done it. And then they don't change it because no one's making them change it. They don't know why. They're afraid to ask why because they might lose their job. So it just stays the same way. That's the way it's always done. Just
It,
go
it,
do it. That's what they tell that. That's what a manager tells their employees. That's the way it's always been done. Just go do it. Don't question. Just go do it. If you want to work here, just go do it. So, how they get to those positions is completely different. So obviously the outcome, and the structure, everything's going to be completely different, until someone comes there and does it differently. So we from the military, if we transition and we get in some of those upper level positions. If you happen to get into one of them coming straight out, good. I wouldn't necessarily begin to leverage what's not required of your skills into the job that you're applying for, even though you know all these other things. Get in the job first, then start leveraging one by one how you can operate a little bit out of your lane, because they don't like that. They can't fathom that you are a jack of all trades, or I'm a jack of a whole bunch of trades. You know what I mean? You can't fathom it. I hired you for this one job. That's what I expect you to do. I don't care if you know about this job, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, or you can run this whole thing. You're not in charge of this whole thing, so you can't run this thing. That's not what we hired you for. So you can't get in there and start making decisions or making recommendations about certain things. You have to wait and find your path, find your way how to leverage one thing at a time. You present it as a teaching point, not as a command or a demand or a ultimatum or whatever. You're just like, if it were me, and you might have to wait to be asked to use that dialogue. You can't get in there and just start doing it. So that's a lesson for people getting out of the military that they have to learn. And when they don't learn it, then now they're looking for another job.
wow, that's good. It's good transition advice.
Yeah.
Leverage what you know in the job that you got hired for. Because I remember I got a good buddy of mine retired out of Hawaii a couple years, yeah, about 2, 3 years ago. He got hired some manager job, doing whatever he's doing now. But his wife would tell him, "You get paid for what you get hired for. If they want you to do other things, then they need to pay you." I go, I mean, do you remember when you were a gunny motor T? Like you were just hooking and jabbing every single spot. Like if you didn't have the PSC or Lance Corporal, you were doing it. Like it didn't really matter. And I understand. I get it. I get it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Stay,
And
stay in your lane.
that's a switch that people transition out of military, especially the more rank that you have when you're getting out, that you have to adapt to. I think you have to look at it like this. And this is what I tell people in transition. I used to work with people transition out of the military, right? So you got to decide if you want a career, and this is your next job after the military. Do you want a career job, or do you just want to go to work? So career, you're doing all those things that the gunny did, completely different. I'm
Yeah.
anticipating the next thing on before we get there, even though it's not my necessarily job to do it all. You do that same thing. It's 24/7. Whether they're paying you 24/7 money or not, which should be more than what you got when you were a gunny, right? So, but you have to decide if you want to do all that all over again from a career mindset, because it's a lot.
Yeah.
But you're
That's
doing
true.
more than what the job responsibilities say that they are. In the civilian world, they don't do that. It's like, this is your lane. This is what we pay you to do. So you know what the civilians who grew up in that do when they're asked to do something outside of that? They say it's not in my duties and responsibilities. And they're right.
Yeah.
But they're right. You don't pay me to do that. If you want me to do that, which is more, right?
That
You
sounds
don't
kind
know that
of,
because you didn't grow up in that, which is
uh,
more than you have to pay me for. And the leadership in that same organization knows that they're asking the person to do more, but they don't want to pay them to do more, but they want them to do more. And you know who's guilty of this as well is leadership who hasn't served, but they hired those who have served. We want all your skills, all your this, all your that. We want your service,
oof.
guinea pig. Not all due respect. We
Yeah.
want your service, guinea pig, that when we ask you, you do it because you're a sucker for service because you already did it.
Wow.
That's the way they look at it. They ain't gonna tell you you're a sucker for service. They just gonna use you up because you're a sucker for service. Let me see if
Mm.
I can get them to do that military stuff here, or have they, when they transition, adapted to the civilian thing of, hold up, this don't say that. Put it on there, but it goes with a number sign. I mean, a dollar sign.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
what you need to adapt to. At best, people transition out need to know that that's how it works in the civilian world. Now, you decide when you're going to leverage it, but you best know that that's how it works. Because if you don't, and then you're watching your the person who never served, that your counterpart operate that way, then you're thinking, oh, see, they could never make it in the military, but well, they ain't trying to be in the military. And guess what? You're not in the military anymore. So don't bring that stuff there. Certain things to
Uh,
bring there, and certain things not to bring there, and that will be one of them. If you don't adapt to that, you ain't gonna pay you, man.
yeah, that's crazy. That's good.
They ain't
Gosh,
gonna
I
pay you
mean,
what you're worth. You gotta understand your worth. It's completely different. You still have all
yeah.
the skills. I can give y'all all this, but you got some money back there that you're withholding from me, but you want me to do all this stuff. That's not how it.
So
Yeah.
what you're saying is they're using us now during active duty. Get them, get them, get them.
Wrong word. I won't say
I'm just
use.
kidding.
We raised our hand for
That's true.
selfless service. It's
There
selfless
it is.
service, so it's different. You can apply that same selfless service to your civilian job if you want to, but they are using you because they don't have a pay limit. They do for that job, and they're paying you that pay for that job. But now they're asking you to do more. If you want me to do more, then you got to give me
Okay.
something. Okay, maybe you don't have, maybe it's not monetary. Okay, but then guess what? Now I want 3 more weeks of paid vacation. I want this. I want that. You need to work it out. And that's another thing in terms of negotiation when you're leaving the military and you're trying to get that first job and whatever they say that the pay is, it may not meet your pay, but you continue to negotiate to make up for that money. What can I get? They got something. They ain't going to give it to you unless you ask.
It's good. Thank you for that. I didn't even, for those transitions, hey, leverage what you get paid for what you're worth.
That's
If you
right.
get out of four, you're worth four. I'm just saying they pay you for the experience. I mean, even in the military, though, you got to think they pay you for your experience. That's why you progress through the ranks. It's not
Yep.
because you just breathe and show up to work. Because if you breathe and show up to work, you're not going to get promoted that quick. You're not going to get paid that quick, and you're not going to get that responsibility that quick. So
Yeah. And I
that's
always say
good. Go.
this. Think about this, when you raise your hand, it's selfless service. But just think about the generals who make all the money, right? But they stay there from 1 star to get to 4. Now, what's there between 1 and 4? Okay, stars, pay, got that. Retirement pay, got that. Yeah, but 1 to 2, same thing. 3 to 4, 3 to 4. Now I know as a general right now as opposed to a lieutenant general, right? My point is this: they know that each and every assignment after that is more experience. And what they do outside, they're going to get paid for that. So it's unequivocal for the generals when they get out. They're getting paid for all those things that the company knows they can do. They're not being asked to do more. They're getting paid to leverage everything they know from the very beginning.
Yeah,
But
that's good.
they put in the time and the effort to get that when they went from 2 stars to 3 stars, 3 stars to 4 stars. They ain't quaggling over whatever. But you call me up and say you want to hire me, or if I say I want to come to work for you, here's my number. Best you can just go find more, but you better not come back with less. Then why'd you talk to me in the first place? But they put in all that work and everything way ahead of time to go from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4,
That's good.
right?
That's good. So, Major, I'll tell you what. What are you doing? We're gonna get to not into your current employment, and then you touch a little bit, get a little plug on the book. What are you doing now, currently, for employment? Besides being a professional golfer. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm not being a professional golfer. That's we need to correct that. Offer. I'm working on it. I work on it like a professional most times. Like why can't I get
Fighting
better,
to
better,
work it.
better? Yeah. You go shooting 39 and it should have been a 36. It's like, dang, if I just had a if I had a brain fart on that one hole, the score would have been different for 9 holes or whatever. So I worked as my last 9 to 5, I would say I was a program manager for a program called Onward to Opportunity. And you need to make a note of this for your audience. That program falls under what's called the Institute for Veterans and Military Families at Syracuse University. And they provide professional certifications for people who transition out of the military within 6 months. Well, when they are 6 months from getting out of the military, for veterans, Guard Reserve, and military spouses. So you get free professional certifications like a PMP, Project Management Professional Certification, several in human resources, and even more in information technology. So again, look up IVMF or the Institute for Veterans and Military Families, and you'll find that program called Onward to Opportunity. All right. So I did that for almost 5 years, and that ended in March of last year, March of 24. Pretty much took the rest of that year off and golfed and did nothing for a little while. And at the end of last year, I started my true passion, which is saving lives by providing proactive situational awareness strategies to mitigate mass shooter and inside threat attacks in the workplace, academic institutions, and places of worship. That was placed on me based on surviving an insider threat attack by a fellow American soldier in the Army in Kuwait in 2003, right before we crossed the border to go into Iraq. So my life was saved for a reason, and it's to save other lives so they don't become victim of what I was. I left that thinking there always has to be a sign, and like, what was the sign that we missed? And even though in the end there wasn't one, an evident one, but that still always kind of bothered me. And I know that these attackers are putting something out there that if we are situationally aware, that we may be able to mitigate these attacks. So that's my work now, is to speak as many places as I possibly can, but get on podcasts to talk about it. Sometimes it's strictly about that. Most of the time it's strictly about that. Do the workshops for organizations. That's my work.
That actually sounds so kind of fun. I mean,
Yeah.
not the idea of an insider threat, but I'm just saying like preparing and educating and providing tools for all people that work in those different workplaces. That's good. Sounds interesting. Sounds fascinating. Sounds like you have a purpose, and it
Yeah.
sounds like that's what. And we got a little bit before we get there. Hit the plug on the book you sent me. A little synopsis of the book. What got you to write that?
Yeah. So it was this attack. So it's we deploy over to Kuwait. That was our intermediate staging base, place called Camp Pennsylvania, as we're prepping for a war to cross the border and go into Iraq. So we get there about early March. Some got there late September, and the year is 2003. And so now it's March 22nd, 2003. We had just finished our finished touches on the plans to invade Iraq from our position. And that night, I was gonna watch Tiger Woods play golf. The unit that occupied the camp before us had a television, and it was in the tent by myself and where the commander and the executive officer slept. So I was gonna watch golf. I had watched it Friday night, watched it Saturday night. I'm sorry, watched it Thursday night, Friday night, and now it's late Saturday night. I'm gonna watch it again. Like, Tiger's already lapping the field. Big Tiger Woods fan. I had gone to our new shop that we got on the little place there. Got myself some snacks. Our ammo had just been delivered that day, so my driver bought my ammunition. So I'm sitting there loading magazines, watching Tiger Woods play golf, and I'm on the computer doing bill pay. And this something comes into the tent. I don't see it come in, but I hear the flaps of the tent there. And I'm sitting at the end of this table, and I see these sparks. I know it's some type of grenade. I just don't know what type of grenade it is. That's sparking before it blows up. It's definitely a grenade. And I just see sparks. He jump up right away, run to the back of the tent to get the commander. Commander was asleep back there. He had gone to bed at 2200 hours. It's about pretty close to 01 right now. That was the earliest he had gone to bed the whole time we had been there. Executive officers in the tent, he sees the same thing I see. I get a command and say, hey, got to get up, got to get out of the tent. There's a grenade about to explode. Now, where I was operating from, there's a fluorescent light that was on. And by the time I go to the back of the tent, it's pitch dark in the tent. So he gets up, gets his boots on. I say, I'm going to count to 3 and we're going to run. So I count to 3, we run down the middle of the aisle. I make it out of the tent and he's not there. So I'm calling for him in hushed tones. I don't want to be loud and, silhouette myself, if you will. There's no response. Then I hear a gunshot. And I knew when I was coming out of the tent, there's that little vestibule area there in these timber tents. I knew there was someone in there. And I knew it was the executive officer. So when I hear the gunshot, I hear a yell, I know it's him. So I'll pull out my weapon, attempt to cock it. It has a magazine in it, but doesn't have any ammo. So when you have that pistol and got a magazine, no ammo, you pull the bolt to the rear and it goes instead of it turns around, right? So I'm screwed. So the talk is about 25 yards behind us. So I run to the top so I can get a weapon and ammo and nods because you can't see anything. Once I get in there, I start positioning people at the door while someone's getting that weapon and ammunition and the nods. And I start placing people all over the top to secure that. I finally get the weapon and everything, come back out, go straight to my tent to look for both of them, and they're not there. Now, I'm the only one outside at this time. Like, there's no sounds. It's just eerie. I go back to the top to get someone to go to my tent, vicinity of my tent, to look for them while I look for the enemy. Because no one was out there, like no one's looking for the enemy, I need to find them and find both these guys at the same time. But if I find the enemy, I can prevent, any more destruction, if you will. So that's happening when I was in the top that second time. I call in the radio for a platoon to come in the vicinity of the top to assist because there was no one out there, right? And then a medic at the aid station on the camp asked if I need FLA. Well, I know one person's been injured, so I say yes, in the vicinity of the top. I go back out. One of our soldiers kind of actually challenged me, who's there. That's a challenge, not password, but at least a challenge, right? He asked me what's going on. I say that Major Romaine has been shot, and he says Captain Seifer has been shot as well. So we know 2 people have been shot. Now, something happens from an adrenaline standpoint that you may not catch everything. So I never heard. But by this time, a grenade had exploded, and then another one had exploded, and another one had exploded. I don't hear those explosions. So in addition to 2 people being shot, 3 grenades have gone off. My commander didn't make it out of the tent because a grenade came in there and threw him back into his sleep area. He says it felt like he was hit by Larry Zonka. You might have to Google that one to see who that is.
Okay. You got jokes for the young man. Okay.
And that was in our tent, which was the first one in a line of 5. And then because the people in the second tent had heard 1 gunshot and 1 grenade go off, they began to stand up. So a grenade explodes at a 15-degree radius. So I would say if you're 14 degrees or below, and then you're safe. And if you're 14 and above, even though it explodes at 15, then you might catch a few pieces of shrapnel. But those who had began to stand up, you can imagine how they caught a lot of it. And 2 were in that situation. One to the point where he had 83 grenade shrapnel holes in his body. And really got him in his neck, big hole in his neck, just bleeding everywhere. The next tent, because now they've heard a gunshot, an explosion, and an explosion, some of them had began to come out of the tent to the point where one was shot point blank in the back. There were a few others. There was one other that would have made it out of the tent, but realized he didn't have his ammo, so went back to get his ammunition. And then when he started to come back out of the tent, the grenade that was rolled into that tent exploded, and he was 17 inches away. So now we have mass casualties going on where someone took charge of triaging the casualties. So that is happening. They're being triaged to be put on litters or put on the FLA to be taken to the aid station that's on the camp. All that's happening simultaneously while we're looking for the enemy, with no clues or anything as to who the enemy is. I go back in and talk and say something had to have changed in this camp. I've gone out to the guard post several nights before. They were all doing the right thing. They had to have fallen asleep in order for someone to scale a 12-foot sandy berms. They try to walk up that without sinking, and then climb over concertina wire and get into the camp. Only way that could have possibly happened is all the guards fell asleep. But something had to have changed in this camp. And then I learned that interpreters that came in the night before. So bam, has to be them. Go find them. Now, they would have been working for us, right? So we find the interpreters, apprehend them. They're on the ground, on their knees, hands behind their head, M4s pointing at the back of their heads. We get them in and interrogate them just to learn they have nothing to do with it. So now we're back to square one of looking for insurgents. Copter lands to evacuate the first group that they put on there to the aid station. I'm sorry, to the combat support hospital. Now that flight's probably about a minute max. It's only 500 meters. So that first helicopter is loaded and takes off. The second one lands. As soon as that second one lands, there's a huge fireball in the sky, huge explosion in the sky. So now we begin to think that's just a coordinated attack. That was a Scud, and it's from the air and on the ground. Although we don't see anything on the ground, that sign in the air says it's likely a Scud. Now, the Patriot battery, there's a Patriot battery assigned to division headquarters. They can see that coming in on their radar. So they saw this fast movement. They could hear what's happening on the ground. They saw this fast moving object in the sky, and they shoot it down. Well, it ends up being a British Tornado fighter jet returning from a mission. So now we shot down an ally jet. Yeah. So the search continues for the insurgents. We learned that the interpreters had nothing to do with it. And, they're pissing their pants, scared. Now back to square one, looking for insurgents. So our commander was concussed from the grenade that was thrown into the first tent there. And he's in a talk and it says we need to get accountability of personnel. So that net call goes out. We get all reports back. We learned that one person is missing, a Sergeant Akbar, as well as grenades and ammunition. So now he's the number one suspect. So myself and the intelligence officer, Major Warren, have been doing various, things all night. I'm putting people in security positions throughout our little area. They had broken down this campus as paths is what they call them. So we're like in the middle was the brigade headquarters, brigade combat team headquarters. Then all the brigade combat team is all around us on this camp. I always say it's like 10 football fields. It was much bigger than 10 football fields. 5,000 people on this one camp. Again, us in the middle, the rest of the combat team around us. And so as I'm putting people in security positions, well, they're facing out, but guess who they're facing? Our people. Now the search is turned to Akbar. We come out of the tent after learning this news, and the Major Warren realizes there's a bunker that he had not gone to. So he'd been walking around all night, his pistol in his hand, checking on people in a bunker, like who we have here. They would say who they were. He, gave him some instructions, boom, on to the next bunker. When we came out of the talk, he realized there was one he hadn't gone to. So he goes toward that bunker. And like he had done all night, he's asked who's in the bunker first as he's approaching. And when he does so, the response is Sergeant Akbar. Well, Akbar doesn't know we're looking for him. So by now, Akbar has committed this attack. He has gone into one bunker that had several people in it. And when they asked him who he was, he didn't respond because he wasn't part of the headquarters. Still in the brigade combat team, but not a part of the headquarters company. He leaves that bunker and goes to another one, and he's in there with one other person. So again, when asked who's in this bunker, he says Sergeant Akbar. There's another person who says their name. The major holsters his weapon and just keeps walking and gets behind him and takes Akbar down, and that's how he's apprehended. Now, Akbar was an engineer assigned to one of the infantry battalions, and I told you how huge this camp is. If that infantry battalion was located on a campus about 300 meters from the headquarters in the middle. So he was on guard, guarding the ammunition that just came in later that day. It was already dark when the ammo came. Commanders had to, they could make a decision either to issue it in the dark or just wait till sunlight. So their decision was to wait till sunlight and put guards on it. So he was on guard duty with another soldier. He's a sergeant. So he told the soldier, hey, go to sleep. I'll take it for the rest of the time period until we're relieved. They took that opportunity to open up crates and get ammunition and grenades. Then he had gotten, 5.56 ammunition. He got, I think 5 frag grenades, 5 or 6, and then 3 incendiary grenades. So that first object that came into my tent that I saw that was sparking was actually an incendiary grenade that starts fire, so it sparks first. So he's apprehended. I've been walking around all night with my, I still had that M4, so I gave that back. And all I had was just like a fleece jacket on and a fleece hat. So once he was apprehended, I went to my tent to get, my gear and ammo from 9mm. And as I was going in, I had a flashlight, because it was dark in there, and I'm looking at everything and see where that frag grenade that did blow up in my tent had destroyed my whole area. Like my whole area was just looks like Swiss cheese. And then it hit me. Had I not been watching Tiger Woods play golf, then I'd be dead. No way I would have survived what I saw. So now I'm pissed. I'm like, this dude could have killed me. Now I'm pissed. Even though he shot other people and other people wounded, like, you tried to kill me. So I'm going to go do something to you. So I get my stuff, come back out of the tent, go over to where he's apprehended, and I'm going to do something. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to do something. As I got close to him, there were some captains coming over and gonna bum rush him and whatever. Like, why'd you do this to my friends and blah, blah, blah. So I spent my time holding them back, and then that just sort of, foiled my plan, whatever my plan was going to be. Probably for the good, right? No telling. I was pissed. You tried to kill me, right? So while he's on the ground, they searched him. He's being flex cuffed, and someone says, well, here's his weapon. They gave it to me. I smelled it to see if it had been recently fired, and it had. When I had gone to my tent, I realized there was a piece of brass outside that was there from when our executive officer was shot. So I took the weapon, I put it on safe. I didn't clear it intentionally because I didn't want to disturb any of the rounds. The rounds in that magazine and the one that was chambered were responsible. This weapon system, total with rounds, was responsible for this attack, and the people that were shot, then it would match the expended brass. So they had the dodic numbers. So I took the weapon over to that piece of brass, put someone on guard. The guard and said, only I can relieve you. That dude ended up being there for like 12 hours. Well, and then someone said that, here's the grenades. So what he did was on duty to carry the grenades, took his protective mask out of protective mask carrier and put all the grenades inside the carrier. So the carrier was there, and I told him the best place for that, just throw it back into the bunker. I mean, nothing should happen with it just sitting there, but if it does, the bunker is the best place for it. So he's kind of hauled off about, 30 yards away from everybody and guarded, and he's asked, like, why he did it. And his response was to keep y'all from killing our women and raping our children. I didn't know what our meant at the time. It didn't click that because his last name was Muslim, that's why he committed this attack. CID comes, they do an investigation, and they take him away. Later on that day, we went to the hospital to visit, some of our wounded. Some of them were coming in and out of surgery over there, and we learned the person that got shot in the back had died of wounds. It died of being shot point blank in the back. The best thing that happened to us was that 2 days later, our orders got moved up to go invade Iraq. Before that night, we were supposed to, that was a Saturday going into Sunday. We were supposed to leave on that Thursday. But after the attack, everything moved up. Not just for us, for the whole division. But in that day when we learned that, they had us take everything out of the tents so they could do the investigation and everything. And our soldiers were kind of along this wall, and they were devastated. Obviously, like, how could this happen from the inside? And to the point where, of course, they needed to grieve, but they weren't in shape to go fight a war. And I could see that. So I ordered all of them to get out of the area. I don't care where you go. It's a big camp. Go someplace else. Go do what you got to do, but you're not going to do this here. What I saw was there's no way, I don't care what they were supposed to cross the border and go to Iraq. This unit can't do it. Now I didn't want anybody else to see that. So I just ordered them all out of the area. The next day, we had a memorial service for Captain Seifert. The next day, there were 800 hours. We're in our vehicles in a GAC to invade Iraq. So that was the best thing that happened to us, was to get off of that camp and get away from all that stuff. Of note, I started out watching Tiger Woods play for 3 rounds, and I wasn't going to be denied. The next night, I watched him again. I didn't go to bed so I wake up Saturday morning. I didn't go to sleep until sometime Monday night. Monday night. No, late. Yeah, Monday morning sometime. Because the golf came on late Sunday night into Monday morning. And I probably went to bed sometime after about 04, but had to get up at 07 because the memorial service was at 08. So I started the war with super sleep deprivation.
All right. All right.
So now we have a known enemy that we're going up against by the Iraqi insurgents for real this time. And so our focus was on that. And we really didn't talk about this attack at all after that. No one said a word about this attack. Like, no one said a word. And that happened in March. I want to say in June or July, we entered into a video teleconference when they were doing an Article 32 investigation to determine the court martial. And that was the first time that, something came up again. I think we sent a couple of people back to the States for that. Then the trial happened 2 years later. So it always bothered me that there had to be a sign of this happening. Like, what did he present prior that was missed by, this lower level leadership, right? What did the sergeant not see in this particular guy? That bothered me. Not that there was something there, but I go as far as to say that if he's not what I call participating in reindeer games, so if everyone's over here doing this thing, that's voluntary, if you will, playing football, whatever, and then he's not, that's a sign of something. That behavior begs a question. Now, you got to remember, we're going to fight a war. And arguably, in those years, 85, 90% have never done this before of our fighting force. So you could understand how someone would be, distant. Are they distant because of that? But my point is, him not playing in the reindeer games begs a question. And the question needs to be asked because he might say, I'm just afraid of fighting. You're not punking out, but it's reality. Like, why are you over here? That could have been a thing. My family's dealing with some stuff back home. I'm just upset that I can't be with them. We deployed and et cetera, right? But we never know if you don't go ask a question. Some behavior presents itself to where we should be asking a question, which at the end of the day is situational awareness, right? We're supposed to know our Marines or soldiers are supposed to know. That's part of knowing. So that bugged me. Was there a sign? I can tell you that probably came into play, but he wasn't going to say, hey guys, the reason I'm not playing football with you because I'm an animal, because I'm trying to kill all y'all. That's why. But here's what happened. 2 years later, we learned this in the trial, that he wrote this in his diary. I do not like the military. I'm sorry. In 1993, he wrote this in his diary. Now, I want to point out that religion doesn't pull the trigger. People do. Now, you can be engrossed in it. It can be your belief, your ideology. You can become radicalized about it. You can become extremist about it. But it does not pull the trigger. In 1996, he writes, anyone who stands in front of me shall be considered the enemy and dealt with accordingly. 1996, he writes, destroying America was my plan as a child and as a juvenile and in college. My life will not be complete unless America is destroyed. Destroying America is my greatest goal. In 1998, he joins the Army.
Well,
so this was already planned.
Yeah.
So was there ever going to be a sign of this? Not. So he joins the Army in 1998. In February 2003, remember we deployed to Kuwait there in March 2003, he writes, I'm not going to do anything as long as I stay here. Stay here meant Fort Campbell. But as soon as I am in Iraq, I'm going to try to kill as many of them as possible. So just planned attack all along, unbeknownst to us. So I thought that people should know about the attack that happened, number one. It wasn't getting any news. People should know that an insider threat attack exists and can happen again. And what I took away from it was, because those things are in a diary and you know about it, was that we don't go home with people at night. So we don't know what their true beliefs are. We don't know what ideology they are following. We don't know, unless they exhibit it outside of that, how they become radicalized about their ideology and then extreme about their ideology, which led me to a quote that I created as a result, that no profession, level of education, ideology, or religion is above reproach. There is no profile. The insider threat is closer than anything. So we could be fooled by the uniform. We could be fooled by the branch of service. And we could be fooled by the fact that they've taken an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And they're like us, and they come to work and they exhibit those values, those traits, all those things. But we don't go home with them. So can you fake those values and all those things? Well, because this happened, you damn straight you can fake it.
That's true. Interesting. Wow. That's crazy that I'm in the presence of history, presence of lineage, army lineage. I mean, I'll tell you what, The story is amazing. Sergeant Major, your story is captivating. I love it. I love learning from you. I love being able to experience what you experience, even just by word of mouth. And people should know that insider threat is a real thing. I know my wife, not military related, but just kind of weave it back in. My wife says, "Be careful who you trust, because not everybody's got your back."
Sure.
That's the truth. Truth of the matter is, well, I will say that there's a lot of adversity. There's a lot of resilience there. You seem very very well very very well put together, Sergeant Major. Give me one last for the listeners. We always got to hit mental health and things that military service members struggle with. Give them one thing for the toolbox and one less save round for them, so that they're well equipped moving forward.
Yeah, I think you touched on it. And in writing the book, I wanted people to know about the story. I wanted them to know that anybody is capable of this attack, whether it be inside the military or a fellow student or a person you work with, are capable. We can't put people in this box and profile and say it's going to look like this. I happened to watch just came out last night. I digress here a bit, but it's related. The Oklahoma City bombing. And when that bombing happened, when FBI and all law enforcement was doing their work, they thought that it had to have been an attack from the Middle East. Just automatically. This is 1995. Has to be them. Who else would do this? Just to learn that, hold up, you're profiling, dude. All of you are profiling. And it had not been for an extreme amount of luck. I advise you go look at that. Just an extreme amount of luck. It might have taken them a while. Definitely might have caught them as fast as they did. But my takeaway is this. Inside the book, you get the story, but you also get proactive situational awareness strategies. I felt it was incumbent upon me to prevent, as best I could, something like this from happening to other people, regardless of the environment they were in. So you hit on it right away that the first proactive strategy is trust. And I say trust no one. Let them develop it. I say that because it makes you think. You had a gesture right away as soon as I said that. And your mind says, well, I have to, but it's going to make you think about how you do it. That's what I want you to do. Because still trust a certain way this day by those people who wear the same uniform that you do and took the same oath that you did. And I did the same thing. But then that same person shot people in the back and killed people. I'm going to divert a little bit more that after that night of the attack, the next night, I had a platoon of our own soldiers guard us from everybody on the camp. Who else was on the camp?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Who else is on the camp? Meaning, like, who else is guarding the
Who did
camp?
I tell you was on that camp?
Everybody else. I mean, everybody in the translators, you.
My own soldiers.
Yeah.
So we have a platoon of soldiers guarding the headquarters from the rest of my soldiers. Yeah. So trust went right away from me. Didn't take long. The next one is observe, listen, and report. So if we are being situationally aware, we get to apply that observe, listen, and report. So if you see it, or you hear it, then you do something about it in terms of reporting. I don't advocate for people to step in between them and the would-be attacker, but what you see, what you hear, you need to report. Next is know your neighbor. That means know your fellow soldiers even more. Your Marines even more. Fellow students even more. Know your coworker even more. The more you know them, the more they're going to tell you. And the more they tell you is more that you're going to be able to observe and listen to report. Next, listen, don't just hear. In addition to that, but listen, don't just hear. And I put several people in the room and someone's talking whatever, like, I heard that. But then they're like, man, you made that point. Well, that's the person who was listening. Everyone else didn't hear the point. It's just I have a bigger example of that. So when I'm speaking, I share each one of these strategies. I share real stories with. Then lastly would be your gut check. Like I knew, I knew. We hear that all the time. And if you follow the story from the Florida State University shooting that happened on Thursday, and you Google now and you get a follow-up from that, you're going to see some interviews with someone going to say, well, I thought, or I knew he always, because we get it all the time. But what they didn't do with it, they didn't observe it and listen and report it. Their gut told them something. What's the worst that could happen if your gut said, I think this thing. I saw this and I think this. Nothing. You get it off of you. You can tell someone who's in the position to do something with what your gut's telling you and let them do their work after that. Because what doesn't work is in the end when people are dead, I always knew, but you did nothing with it.
Yeah.
You know what you always knew.
That's
and you
good.
were right because your gut told you, but you did nothing with it. Now we got dead and injured people for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, guys. Sergeant Major. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your story. I appreciate your experience. And last, thank you for your service. 29 years is I hear 20 is the, what is it? 20 is a hobby, 30 is a profession. So you were almost there. You were almost there. Uh,
Already said that before. That's a good one.
where can they reach you if they want to know more about you, Sergeant Major?
Yes, LinkedIn, and then my website, bartwomack.com. People can purchase the book there. You can go straight to the website and purchase it, or you can go to Amazon. Embedded Enemy of the Insider.
Hell yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Pit Talk, pulling pits and opinions with your host, Gunny G, our Major retired Bart Womack. Where service members help service members, period. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcast and on most social media platforms. Let us know how we're doing. Any criticism is good criticism, ladies and gentlemen. Star Major, we out. Star Major, I need something from you at the very end, so I'll reach back out to you here later on today.
All right.
But I appreciate the point of contact. If you ever need anything from me, let me know. It was awesome talking to you, and hopefully don't be a stranger.
All right. Likewise. Thank you.
Star Major, have a good day. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Stand by, contact. Ceasefire. Stand by, contact, contact. Ceasefire. Pit Talk is a podcast featuring active service members who discuss their thoughts and opinions on various issues surrounding military life, current events, and history. The statements heard here are the opinions of its members and guests. These do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of Defense and are not endorsed or sponsored in any way. Listener, viewer discretion advised.